chief guest, Ms. Mercy Wanjau, the Acting Director General of the Communications Authority of Kenya. Let me also acknowledge the banking stakeholders that are hereby present online. Let me also recognize Eva Ngigi, who is the country lead for Visa in Kenya. Let me also recognize Gituku Kirika, who is the CEO of IPSL, the Integrated Payment Services Limited. We also have the chair of the Kenya Society for the Blind, Mr. Samson Waweru. We also have the CEO of the Association of Persons with Disabilities of Kenya, Mr. Anthony Nzuki. We also have the CEO of the Consumer Grassroots Association, Ms. Alice Kemunto. And we also have the CEO of RETRAC, that's the Retail Traders Association of Kenya, Ms. Wamboi Barire. We also have members of the media who have logged in. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Let me take this opportunity to first welcome you all to this forum, held to mark the launch of the 21st Chonjo Card Mobile and Online Safety Awareness Campaign. This is in fact the second time that you are launching this campaign virtually, having held the first one last year due to the meeting limitations that were occasioned by, as we all know, the COVID-19. And from the outset, I would like to extend our appreciation to Ms. Mercy Wanjau for making time to be with us this morning. I have no doubt that partnering with the Communications Authority of Kenya in this year's campaign sets the stage for more collaborations towards promoting sustainable growth across the sectors, leveraging on areas of convergence between the telecommunications sector and the banking industry. In the same vein, let me also gratefully acknowledge all our partners this year. We have got MasterCard, we have PesaLink, we have got Visa, we have got Kenya Society for the Blind, we have got the Association of Persons with Disabilities of Kenya, we have got RETRAC, the Retail Trade Association of Kenya, and we have the Consumer Grassroots Association. We do indeed appreciate your partnership in this important industry initiative. Considering the central role played by the financial and payment sector players in the economy, this partnership makes a great contribution towards enhancing financial inclusion across the sectors. Coordinated by KBO on behalf of the banking industry, the Chonjo campaign initiative seeks to empower consumers with information on secure use of banking and payment channels. Through our collaboration with our partners and other sector players, including the Central Bank of Kenya, we continue to recognize the fact that fraud issues are dynamic in nature. This makes a case for sustained awareness creation to keep pace with the evolving trends in fraud. Following the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic last year, there has been a sustained switch to digital banking services in the bid to contain the disease spread. The Kenya Bankers Association Consumer Satisfaction Survey that was done last year showed that 43% of the bank customers prefer mobile and internet banking channels. While the banking industry's digital resilience has continued to promote continuity in the financial services sector, rising cases of fraud need to be addressed through consumer education. In the COVID-19 period, we continue to appreciate the fact that empowering users of financial services with safety information is the most effective strategy in addressing fraud issues. It's important to note that many of the COVID-related security challenges, such as malware attacks, social engineering, identity theft, and phishing emails, occur due to the lack of knowledge on the part of the consumer. In response to these challenges, the banking industry has invested in consumer sensitization programs, both at the bank level and the industry level. In addition, several training programs targeting staff continue to be rolled out to enhance fraud detection and containment measures. Upgrade of technologies also continue to be implemented to address emerging security threats. In order to sustain these efforts, KBA works closely with the regulators and fintechs to continuously assess emerging fraud challenges and designing interventions. The Central Bank of Kenya and the Communications Authority of Kenya continue to be our key partners in these important efforts for the financial services sector. I would like to note with appreciation our partnership with the Kenya Society for the Blind in the campaign this year. This partnership comes at a time when the banking industry is implementing a program aimed at facilitating access to banking services for persons with disability. It also resonates with our collective industry aspiration to deepen financial inclusion and not leaving anyone behind. As I conclude, I would like to appreciate the continued support from the media in circulating awareness messages. There is no doubt that this sustained support has made a great contribution towards our efforts in mitigating fraud. At this point, I would like to welcome Ms. Eva Ngigi Sawari, the Visa Kenya country lead, to make her remarks. Karibu, Eva.
Thank you. The chief guest, Mrs. Mercy Wanjao, MBS, Acting Director General Communications Authority of Kenya, the CEO Kenya Bankers Association, Dr. Habil Olaka, partner bank CEOs and representatives, partners in the payment industry, media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for taking the time to join us as we announce a month-long campaign for consumers and merchants on this topical issue that is security. I'd wish to commend the Kenya Bankers Association for this noble initiative that brings together industry stakeholders to empower consumers with information and resources on how to avoid fraud-related risks. The fear of fraud is a major barrier to the adoption of digital payments, and it is understandable for consumers and businesses to not want to accept this risk. We cannot speak about the recent past without considering the COVID-19 pandemic and how it has impacted our lives. COVID-19 disrupted the global economy and affected communities in every country worldwide. It has changed the way we live, work, and how we buy, while forcing millions of businesses to find new ways to operate. This is no different for us here in Kenya. Between March and April 2020, use of mobile payment apps went up by 71% in Kenya. Habil has alluded to this. And this is according to a pulse survey commissioned by McKinsey Financial Insights in 2020. We also saw food retailers reporting as much as a 400% jump in web traffic since March 2020. We have seen an explosion in e-commerce in sub-Saharan Africa as consumers turn online to meet their needs. With more people spending time at home, online spending is set to only increase, with digital payments becoming the preferred and safer way to pay in the pandemic. And this shows no signs of slowing down post-COVID. In fact, findings from our COVID-19 impact tracker have shown that 59% of people in South Africa, 56% in Nigeria, and 66% in Kenya are increasing preference for contactless throughout the crisis. Digital transactions are set to change the future of consumer behavior post-COVID-19 for good. On a global scale, the spread of COVID-19 has accelerated the path to digital payments with rapid increasing adoption of e-commerce, contactless payments, and P2P transfers across markets. These shifts in consumer and merchant behavior and government priorities have reinforced the role we as Visa can play in supporting economic growth and financial inclusion. More than anything, our business model is changing to meet the changing face of commerce as people move to online platforms. Important to note is that merchants and consumers move online. As merchants and consumers move online, so too are the fraudsters. Therefore, security becomes paramount. For people to use digital payments and enjoy their benefits, they need to trust them. We continue to invest in security, including cybersecurity tools and technologies that form the basis of Visa's secure, reliable network. In Kenya, we continue to work with the government and our partners to broaden the payment options through mobile and other innovative payment channels. Our vision is to enhance the quality of services and employing the latest payment technologies for the financial services industry, merchants, and governments alike. We want to keep ensuring that digital payments are secure and convenient, bringing increased transparency to financial services. Technology also plays a central role in how we significantly reduce payment fraud and help consumers, merchants, and governments form a defense against cybersecurity threats. Through predictive analytics, we are able to spot fraudulent transactions in real time. In a split second, Visa analyzes multiple data sets to identify criminal patterns and prevent fraud before it happens. Undoubtedly, the industry has made great strides towards a safer payment system, along with the cooperation of merchants and governments. However, it is a continuous process, as innovations keep momentum towards cashless transactions, so security measures must keep up with the pace and combat fraud proactively. Forums such as this are important to ensure that we look at ways to work smarter and better with our partners so that together we can protect the payments ecosystem from risks for the benefits of consumers and businesses alike. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eva, for those remarks. So at this point, I would like to welcome our chief guest, Madam Mrs. Mercy Wanjau, who is the Acting Director General of the Communications Authority of Kenya, to also make her remarks and formally launch the campaign.
Thank you very much. Bank Chief Executives in attendance, Dr. Habil Olaka, CEO, Kenya Bankers Association, Madam Eva Ngige, Visa, apologies, Madam Eva Ngige, Visa Kenya Country Lead, Mr. Gituko Kireka, CEO, Integrated Payment Services Limited, Mr. Samson Wawero, the Chairman, Kenya Society for the Blind, Mr. Anthony Njoke, CEO, Persons with Disability Association, Madam Alice Kemunto, CEO, CGA, Madam Wambui Barire, CEO, RETRAC, partners, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm pleased to join you this morning for the launch of the 2021 annual Chonjo Card, Mobile and Online Safety Awareness Campaign. On behalf of the Communications Authority of Kenya, allow me to thank the Kenya Bankers Association for inviting us to partner with you in this year's campaign. I am informed that today marks the 9th year since the inaugural edition of this campaign back in 2013. It is commendable that over that period, the initiative has made significant contribution towards the reduction of various forms of financial fraud, besides providing a great opportunity for industry stakeholders to meet and deliberate on strategies for mitigating financial security challenges. I make this note knowing very well that it is not possible to eliminate fraud completely. By its very nature, fraud keeps evolving and creating new challenges. And for this reason, I firmly believe that there is need for continuous vigilance and formulation of mechanisms to promote financial security, not only within the banking sector, but also in other sectors that deal with financial technology. Ladies and gentlemen, the authority continues to support the government of Kenya in its continued efforts to realize its goals and ambitions as espoused in Vision 2030, the Big Four Agenda, and the Digital Economy Blueprint. This we do in full recognition that the security of our cyberspace is paramount to the prosperity of our country if we are to optimize and ensure sustainability of the gains that Kenya has so far made in information communication technologies. Indeed, the authority is mandated to promote trust and confidence in the use of electronic transactions and to promote and facilitate the efficient management of critical internet resources. This is done through the development of a framework for facilitating the investigation and prosecution of cybercrime offenses. The protection of the integrity of electronic and digital systems is therefore a paramount concern in a digitally enabled economy. Pursuant to this, the authority has put in place various initiatives through the National Kenya Computer Incident Response Team and Coordination Center, what is popularly referred to as the KESAT, which is a multi-agency collaborative framework housed by the authority. The KESAT is targeted not only at safeguarding sensitive financial and health data among other data sets, but also at creating awareness among users, including vulnerable groups such as children. These initiatives seek to build technical cybersecurity capacity, cyber awareness, and improving the overall cyber hygiene practices of the Kenyan population. Further, in cognizance of the importance of collaboration and partnership in cybersecurity, we continue to develop and nurture trust relationships with local and international cybersecurity actors, which has greatly impacted our cyber threat detection, investigation, and response capabilities. In this regard, I'm happy to note that this year, partners in this effort have devoted their attention to highlighting the importance of keeping pace with the dynamic nature of fraud. Undoubtedly, this focus resonates with emerging challenges in the ICT sector, especially in light of the sustained uptake of digital financial services solutions due to the COVID-19 pandemic. It is noteworthy that over the past few months, the volume of cyber threats has risen considerably, in tandem with the increasing preference for digital transactions overall. Indeed, the Communications Authority of Kenya Sector Statistics Report for the last quarter of 2020 indicated that the level of cyber threats had almost doubled in that period, up from 35.1 million threats reported in the previous quarter to 56.2 million threats. So we note the exponential increase, and we expect that this would carry on, hence the need and the relevance for this kind of initiative today. It is noteworthy that over the past few months, the volume of cyber threats has risen and will continue to rise considerably. Of note, malware and app attacks continue to rank highly among the factors that have contributed to the surge in the emergent cybersecurity challenge profile. I am convinced that this situation underscores the need to continue promoting awareness on these fraud drivers and other persisting challenges to safeguard the gains that Kenya has made across sectors, including the banking sector. As you're aware, the Communications Authority of Kenya has been on the forefront in spearheading fraud mitigation programs and initiatives. To this end, we have continued to work very closely with mobile and internet service providers to promote consumer education on both current and anticipated cyber safety challenges. The Chonjo campaign partnership will without doubt be an important addition to these efforts. I would like to note that under the authority's strategic plan 2018 to 2023, we recognize the important role of the ICT sector in enabling resilience for all sectors in the economy. This focus is particularly important in this COVID-19 period. As a regulator in the telecommunications sector, therefore, we will continue to work with all stakeholders and optimize our facilitatory role in the post-COVID-19 recovery. In this regard, I reiterate the CA's commitment to support initiatives such as Chonjo campaign, which continue to play an important contributory role towards securing financial inclusion. I note with appreciation to all partners in this campaign that this campaign echoes the aspirational values espoused in the Vision 2030 blueprint of creating a globally competitive and prosperous country with a high quality of life by the year 2030. In addition to securing financial inclusion through awareness creation, this augments the realization of the government's Big Four agenda. And as a regulator in the sector, we will continue to fast-track ICT-related regulatory and universal access initiatives towards attainment of access to universal health services, growth of the manufacturing sector, access to affordable housing, and achievement of food and nutritional security for all. Ladies and gentlemen, in closing, I would like to emphasize the importance of intra and cross-sector collaboration in winning the war on cybersecurity and financial fraud. As stakeholders in this important sector, we should ultimately aim to catalyze the transformation of Kenya's socio-economic landscape and contribute to broad-based improvements in the quality of life for all Kenyans, particularly in this period. With these remarks, it is now my distinct honor and pleasure to declare the 2021 edition of the Car Chonjo Card mobile and online safety awareness campaign officially launched. Asanteni sana.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Wanjau, for those insightful remarks. Thank you. Highlighted there various aspects of fraud and how it has evolved, and also, of course, highlighted the interventions that are being done from a regulatory perspective, and also the importance of stakeholders to continue working together to address emergent fraud issues. So we thank you very much for sharing those insights, and thank you very much once again for joining us this morning.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. So I'd like now to move to the next part of our program. We're going to have a brief discussion on, actually we are echoing on what Mrs. Wanjau was just spoken about on the area of financial inclusion. And here we are looking at what can be done to secure this financial inclusion in the post-COVID new normal, because it now seems like actually we are going to continue living like this for some time, looking at how the COVID situation is evolving. So at this point, I would like to welcome Mrs. Wambui Mbarire, who is the CEO of RITRAC, to join us. Sperele, you can kindly turn on your camera. We also have Mr. Samson Waweru, who is the chair of the Kenya Society for the Blind. And also I'd like to welcome Mr. Gituku Kirika, who is the CEO of IPSL, to join us. Mr. Fidelis Muia, who is the Technical Services Director at KBA, as well as Mr. Anthony Nzuki. I would like to begin with you, Wambui. We know that digital payments have actually played a very important role in supporting business continuity in the retail sector. And I'll recognize here that the retail sector is actually one of the sectors that have not been disrupted much in light of the COVID situation. So from your perspective, what are some of the interventions that can be made by stakeholders across? I think Mrs. Wanjau there spoke about cross-sector collaboration. What are some of the efforts or interventions that can be made to address security challenges that affect customers from a retail perspective? Sorry, Wambui, you are muted. Please unmute yourself.
Priska,
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. And I think I want to start with how the digital payments have actually supported continuity. Much as we are quite aware that the retail sector, specific to the supermarkets and eateries, remained open and were able to do business throughout the season. There was also limited movement. People were looking to stay indoors. So there was the advantage of their existing digital payments that led to having an optional, additional form of payment that allowed people to continue ordering goods across the various retail outlets, be it the supermarket, be it the eateries. I know, Hesbod, you said that retail was not highly affected. I like to remind people that one of the things that has become very clear during the last 1 year is that there are two types of retail from a government's point of view. There is what we call essential retail, and then there was what was termed as non-essential retail. So essential retail was specifically the supermarkets and the eateries and a few entertainment elements. That continued to be open, but then we have non-essential retail, which was people in fashion, people in books, people in apparels, and that particular retail actually tended to close. And if it was not for the availability of digital payments, a lot of businesses would actually have gone under. It also helped us reduce the issue of cash handling expenses with the increased risk of the fact that theft issues tended to have an upsurge. I think that has been noted both by Eva and the acting DG of CAK. With the reduction of more cash in people's hands, we also tended to use that as an opportunity to promote increased safety for the consumers, because again, during COVID times, and we know money is a very dirty item, that would have perhaps helped promote the spread of the disease. So we encouraged a lot of retailers to use online payments, be it M-Pesa, be it cards specifically, so that we're reducing the amount of interaction between the cashiers and the people that are buying. Again, there was, because of the reduced footfall in probably about 20% of the outlets, even those that remained, that 20% would have led to loss of income, again, were it not for the use of digital payments. And I think Eva said there was an upsurge of almost 400% in sales. And I'll tell you this, supermarkets always had an online presence, but a lot of them didn't do much with it. They didn't activate it. Come the onset of COVID, people reactivated their online presence or went into partnership with people like Jumia and Glovo to ensure that there was continuity of business. I know of a supermarket that was traditionally online, but moved from 0 to 3,000 transactions in the second day of COVID lockdown. And it was also a learning, because I think consumers also realized that coming out of the fact that you can shop online for things that are, say, basic FMCG, if it is flour, if it is milk, just common household eatery items, at the risk of not getting what you asked was highly reduced. So the online platforms really facilitated that continuity. As we went through, there was an increase in the fear for cyber fraud, continuous hacking, continuous dishonest customers. And I think as both, I think it is Eva who alluded to the fact that the more people get online, the higher the chances of finding new cracks in the system. So there was a need to continuously increase that cybersecurity and the systems that we're using in-house. So to your question on what interventions can be made by stakeholders to address the emerging issues, I think we can have continuous enhanced customer awareness programs. For example, the campaign that we've done with KBA, this particular campaign we're on today, continuous automation of authentication initiatives such as using OTPs, data protection. We've seen the data protection bill has become a constant conversation on how to ensure that it works for everyone. And then creating ecosystems within our retails. For example, I mentioned Jumia and Glovo. How do we ensure that there's a seamless process between the ordering, the paying, ensuring the security across that ecosystem, so that we ensure that we are not breaching the consumer's confidentiality, and two, that his money is secured. And then we could also create partnerships similar to working with the Society of the Blind, Other partnership can be, how do we work with CBOs, community-based organizations, the Nyumba Kumi initiative, local administration, just to sensitize consumers, because we note that practically everyone, we say Kenya is one of the most banked organizations. Security includes both mobile, through the mobile money, at the same time, the ability to have the card. I remember we tried to do with Fidelis, who's on this call, greater encouragement of people to move away from calling it a debit card. If we, calling it an ATM card, if we can educate through the community-based organization, through the Nyumba Kumis, of how much you can do with that card, and then educate them on how to ensure that your systems, that your money is safe, that your PIN is kept safe. I think those are initiatives that would really lead to greater engagement across the population in regard to the security, the emerging security challenges within using payment programs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mbuya. I think you've made a very important point there in terms of, creating awareness, and you also made reference to technology. And I'd like to move now to Mr. Fidelis Muya and ask him to just share some insights with regard on, beyond the ability of the technology to sustain activity in the economy, what are some of the main, security challenges you see from a banking perspective that are affecting customers, especially in this COVID-19 period?
Thank you, Hesbon. Just before I go into my remarks, let me recognize the efforts of the Communications Authority to keeping the Kenyans' internet infrastructure up, because all the technology that everybody has been using around this during these 2 years of the COVID situation basically relies on the backbone of the internet. And we all sometimes we take it for granted that the internet will always be there. But there are always people behind the scenes who make sure that this technology keeps working, and we rely on it very much. At the same time, a lot of businesses seem to have been disrupted, but in general, business and economic activities in Kenya has not been as badly affected as other countries. And this is for two reasons. Number one is that Kenya's internet penetration is very, very high. I mean, in terms of not only just mobile payments, but the digital systems, the way businesses integrated and digitizing of businesses. Just for example, everybody seems to have worked from home, but if you wanted government services, there's still e-government. You could still pay your taxes via iTax. You could be able to get your car registrations renewed through NTSA, which is online. You had e-citizen where you could get a lot of government services. So a lot of government businesses actually went on. And of course, we know the meetings like this, Zoom, Teams meeting, they facilitated a lot of businesses. We hosted major conferences. In fact, I remember last year we hosted an Africa-wide conference as KBA virtually. And a lot of people who would have missed the conference because of COVID actually managed to participate. So a lot of businesses went in. Now to talk about the security issues, I mean, a lot of talk has been made about digitizing and securing payments, but we have a lot of things in terms of online services. Internet security has been a major challenge. Disruptions of internet, we've seen quite a number of things like domain hacking, domain cyber squatting, where people take over domains and impersonate other domains. So reputable companies can lose a lot of business because substitute domains have been made to then redirect people online into those other places and basically facilitate fraud through that way. So a lot of those are the challenges that we are coming on. Of course, on the people's devices, we are talking of malware. Passwords are being cracked. We are looking at PIN being stolen. And so we need to look at how do we sensitize consumers to secure their PINs, to ensure that they go through reputable websites and avoid phishing by not clicking on suspicious web email offering special offers and such things. A major challenge so far in the internet era is because the person you are dealing with is not face-to-face. So you're actually dealing with somebody via virtual, either you can see them on video or most of the time you're just talking to them. So things like social engineering become very critical here because somebody can call purporting to be from a reputable organization and basically mislead the consumers to revealing sensitive information. So we have to be very sensitive to who it is we are engaging online to make sure that people know they are verified that the person they are talking to is indeed a bona fide employee of the organization they are dealing with. A lot of people have digitized their businesses, processes, and therefore a lot of documents have been taken online. Now, there is a problem here because most of the original businesses and legal documents rely on physical paper. But now people have digitized these documents, and it is very easy with a lot of software editing to actually do perpetrate frauds of digital documents. So we need to start looking at investing in digital certificates, encryption to secure online documents so that they cannot be edited between one point and another, so that we know the veracity and authentication of the documents is assured. So that is something that we need to start looking around. And just to wrap up, generally from a Kenyan standpoint, and especially in the financial and payment sector, players have generally put in a lot of resiliency around systems to ensure that the systems remain up and they remain available to the consumers. And so focus in terms of failures is now going to the consumers themselves in terms of people being aware of how to use their passwords, try to sensitize them to use multiple factor authentication, not to rely on just the PIN, maybe a PIN and biometrics such that secure transactions can be carried out through other than digital verification methods. And I think that will lead to a lot more heightened confidence on the payment systems in the sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fidelis. At this point, I'd like to circle to what Wambui spoke about before in terms of stakeholder collaboration in containing issues of fraud. And I want now to rope in Mr. Gituko Kirika to just share with us some perspectives on the areas that he feels needs more collaboration, especially from a payments perspective. Welcome, Mr. Kirika.
Thank you very much, Hesbon, and good morning, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be with you this morning, and thank you also for my fellow panelists. First of all, I think before we get into that topic, the question probably, or something where we need to understand is why do fraudsters target financial services and the entire industry around this? One of the reasons for that is just by sheer amount of data that is captured within financial services and payments does make us a very attractive sector for perpetration of fraud. This includes, information around consumers' age, a lot of personal identifiable information, age, bank balances, transaction patterns, mobile numbers, details of next of kin. When you think about it, you start appreciating how much information is actually out there. And this encourages fraudsters to use phishing scams, social engineering, or buying information from for purposes of being utilized, not just in the financial sector, but elsewhere as well. And then there's been a huge uptake of mobile banking, as we have has been described and has been mentioned by others earlier on, to perform everyday financial transactions. And globally today, it's estimated that about 60% of bank transactions are happening on mobile devices. And about 70% of the population is actively involved in banking activities one way or the other. Speed of movement of funds as well, real-time movement of funds also makes us a huge target. There's also an issue to do with underinformed and gullible bank consumers. I think we tend to be very, very trusting, particularly in Africa. I recently had a friend who was called and by a fraudster, and it's amazing the amount of information that this fraudster was able to get from her in just a few minutes. And because she was just happened to be caught off guard and believed it was a call from her bank, and we all trust our banks. And also there is a need for us to invest a lot more. So there's currently some inadequate investment by banks on fraud countermeasures and consumer education. So why then is there a need for multi-sector and multi-stakeholder collaboration to combat fraud? One is enriched information, data, intelligence gathering. We see that happening with governments all over the world where they collaborate on intelligence, and through that they're able to, we're all able to combat this issue more effectively. Also, that leads to some coordinated approach in terms of anti-fraud measures in regards to use of best practice, adoption of best practice right across the board by different parties. A centralized repository as well for information retrieval, right? Would also, like we have seen, for example, something as simple as what we have with credit reference bureaus, is something that can also be adopted in the space of fighting financial fraud. And also helps us when we also collaborate with multiple stakeholders. It also helps us gather fraud patterns. And these fraud patterns also then assist in regards to building countermeasures around fraud. The systems that we build, the ability to adopt AI to be able to fight fraud, all depends on the amount of data that we're able to collect. And coming together just means that we're able to collect a lot more data than we would if we were doing it at an individual organization level. Then they're also working together just means that there'll be better insights for regulators, and regulators play an extremely critical role world over in regards to being able to drive certain agendas. And so as stakeholders, particularly in private sector, the more information we can gather, the more we can be able to add value to the ecosystem, and have our regulators then pass, working together with the regulators, pass certain measures that help us combat this issue as well. There's also then economies of scale, right? So it is expensive to fight fraud. Those who are perpetrating fraud spend a lot of resources in doing so, right? Many years ago, I was told fraudsters make the best business people. Because they do some detailed business case analysis in regards to the investment they want to make. For them, it's an investment in regards to perpetrating fraud. And so it's a big issue for us globally in regards to the cost then of fighting fraud. And by coming together, it means that we can then benefit from the economies of scale. Then the other item is better consumer confidence and trust, because again, when the consumers see us working together, they feel a lot more assured, right? Then in regards to areas that require cross-border collaboration to mitigate fraud, right? I think there's room for a lot more synergy between banks, between telcos, between fintechs, due to increase in mobile-enabled e-commerce, for example, banking, financial transactions, which are all happening in cross sectors. And we had also from EVA in regards to the work that large fintechs such as Visa are undertaking, and there's a need for us to work right across the sectors and collaborate a lot more. Then issues to do with real-time customer identity, verification, validation during SIM swap requests, SIM card replacement are some of the measures also we need to look into, it's areas we need to look into. And while bank customers must be careful about divulging sensitive information, banks need to be at the forefront of educating their consumers as well. Like I mentioned earlier on, we have a concern today in regards to consumers being underinformed and therefore becoming gullible. And as also was mentioned by Fidelis earlier, the standardization and the adoption of two-factor authentication and standardization of the same across the industry will also really help us and go a long way. Thank you, Hezbron.
Thank you very much, Kirika. I think there you mentioned, the importance of creating awareness, and also shared some nuggets in terms of, how to enhance our knowledge about some of the vulnerabilities available in this period. And I would like to bring now on board a very, a stakeholder in a very important sector of the segment of the users of financial services, and that is Mr. Waweru. Mr. Waweru is the chairman of the Kenya Society for the Blind, and I'd like to invite him now to give us some insights on, how this important group can be supported by stakeholders, particularly matters touching on payments, to just make sure that they're able to transact safely. Welcome, Mr. Waweru.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hezbon, and good morning to all participants of this important campaign. and also thanking my fellow panelists for articulating issues in a very informative way. So as a community of persons with disabilities, and most especially persons with visual impairments, we appreciate the campaign, the Chonjo campaign, and financial inclusion, especially in digital apps. First and foremost, persons with disabilities, according to the 2019 statistics, form over 1 million of our population. This means that we are all consumers at some point in our lives. And the Society for the Blind has been in the business of advocating, rehabilitating, ensuring that blind and visual people get quality and inclusive education, as well as looking to their welfare and also employment. So in this way, we are able to take in people who acquire disabilities also at a later stage in life. And especially at this time, over the last few years, acquired visual disabilities is on the rise. According to data from the Ministry of Health, 1 out of every 4 Kenyans is at risk of going blind. So you'll find that most people who go blind come to the society for them to be rehabilitated so that they can be reintegrated. So both those who are born blind, those who acquire blindness at a later age, are able to fit into the society and be integrated just because of technology. So technological revolution has opened ways for persons with visual disabilities to be able to access information, be able to go about their daily businesses in employment, as well as other sectors of life in a very effective and efficient manner. So coming to the topic of the day, that is financial inclusion, especially when we come to the digital payment platforms that are enhanced by technologies. We at 100% depend on that. Although we face a lot of challenges, like from the African context, you'll find that we have very rich culture that has very many positive things, but a few negative things would put persons with visual disabilities on the danger of fraudsters. I know some of you have met friends, and maybe because you've grown a little bit or you've become a bit, I would call healthier or fat, people ask you, hey, kwani wewe siku hizi wakula na vipofu? Meaning that the only way for one to be fat, you have to eat with the blind people. And you see, now taking this into proper context, it then hits your mind that there could be people who could want to take advantage of blind people when it comes to financial issues, especially with the use of technology. And we feel that the conventional, the manual ways of accessing financial services really put us in more dangers. But the evolution of technology is putting us at a place where we can be independent, do our financial matters independently, and also be able to realize a fulfilling life when it comes to privacy of our own dealings in terms of monetary value. So we welcome these and acknowledge this important initiative by the Kenya Bankers Association to include persons with disabilities, especially blind and visually impaired persons, as part of enabling them to be included into this financial and digital space, because they run on a very hazardous risk when it comes to being targeted by fraudsters. So at the same time, we would like to encourage our banks to continue the good work they are doing in terms of helping persons who are blind and visual impairment access digital financial services in manners and ways they could not access before. We could not previously use ATMs by ourselves. Right now, we can see there are attempts to bring voice activated ATMs where we can go put our cards and access our financial details and services without the help of anyone. That really increases our independence. We also acknowledge the fact that we are able to use online platforms from the comfort of our mobile phones. And I know I've been in conversations with a few bank managers on how safe the mobile phone is for a blind person when it comes to online banking. And sometimes a few banks are not willing to allow us to go into mobile banking, but the good thing is that the society is able to educate them and inform these important service providers on ways that mobile technology is assisting persons with visual impairment. In fact, it is the most convenient and safe way of accessing your bank account without anyone being able to manipulate you, because we have phone applications that enhance our use of phones by voice only. So meaning we don't need, like for a totally blind person like me, I don't need a screen on my phone to be on for me to be able to do my transactions. I can put a curtain on my phone because anyway, I don't rely on looking at the phone. I only rely on the voice, and be able to use the banking online system effectively. And even if you're there and you're seated, you won't know what I'm doing. You won't be able to see, but I'll have transacted. I'll have paid you. And to the surprise of many, I have paid them while they're watching and they can't see anything on my phone. So I think this kind of digital literacy to the community of persons with disabilities, as well as to all the stakeholders that are involved and that will be involved in this campaign, we need to spread word that will eliminate barriers that hamper the accessibility of banking services and financial services to persons with visual disabilities. And I call upon all of us to work together in eradication of stigma, eradication of financial discrimination for all persons, including persons with disabilities. And we welcome this opportunity to partner with the Kenya Bankers Association in this campaign that will seek to raise awareness on the need for digital inclusion of all people and eradication of fraudsters when it comes to how we transact online using technology in all areas of our life. I thank you and wish you a good time.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Oweru. I think there you have highlighted the need to facilitate independent access to, financial service platforms by the industry. And I think you made an allusion there to, the project that the banking industry is undertaking, the Persons with Disability, project, which really aims to identify areas that can enhance access to the platforms. And also, I think you've also highlighted there the assistive role of technology really in, promoting access to financial services for people with disabilities, and especially people with visual disabilities. And I think there's an important area there you highlighted in terms of, maximizing independence in, conducting financial transactions. because we know that actually financial transactions is a very personal matter, and it's good for all of us to promote independent access. I would like now to invite Mr. Anthony Nzuki to just give us some ideas or some perspectives on how the strategies that banks and the financial sector providers can put in place to ensure that persons with disabilities are supported from a security perspective. Welcome, Mr. Nzuki.
Hello.
Hi,
Esbon, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Good morning,
go on.
how are you?
Very
Okay.
well, please go on.
Thank you very much, Esbon, and all protocols observed. I'm really very grateful to be participating in this session. I wish to say that I first of all to thank the Kenyan Bankers Association for taking really this issue about security and banking sector really a notch higher. I would say a notch higher because of two things. First of all, the fact that you can think about our population, the people that we are dealing with, really, humbles us quite a lot. Because a lot of times you find that people come up with the policies, people come up with the services, and then the people with who are differently abled are not thought about. They come after as an afterthought. But the fact that you are really thinking about this in we are trying to do at Association for Kenya Association for Physically Disabled People of Kenya is that we are trying to actually enhance digital accessibility. That's why I'm saying for you, you have really taken it higher because now you are talking of security. And one of the things that I'll point out actually at once that actually the Bankers Association can think about is even the whole issue about if you are a wheelchair user and you're going to an ATM, for example, how accessible are those ATMs? Let us assume you can use it very well. Because I have somebody who uses a wheelchair who says that really, even if they get into an ATM, they cannot even lock they cannot have privacy because you are saying we have things like Piniaco, Siriaco. So if you are just operating the ATM at the glare of everyone, security there is actually wanting. All the same, I think I wish to say that we are trying here at Association for the Physically Disabled of Kenya to ensure that we raise the awareness of people who are able differently on the whole issue of digital accessibility. And we are going to inculcate this message, Chonjo, actually in our programs so that while we are actually developing their capacity of being able to access information digitally, we're also going to make sure that we put in the whole issue of cybersecurity. At the moment, we have resource centers that we are opening up in Nairobi, in Mombasa, where we are having people who are differently able to be able to access computers and access services like e-government, Hudumas and all that. And we are going to make sure that this message of Chonjo is actually put in and inculcated in our services that we'll be giving in those resource centers. So we are really very encouraged that the Bankers Association is trying their best to ensure that nobody is left behind, and we will ensure that this message, when these people who have got physical challenges, people have visual impairments come into our centers, we'll make sure that this message goes across, that they really have to be careful about the issues of security for their payments or withdrawals, or ensuring that they really keep the information very well. But it is not easy, but at least we are happy that the Bankers Association is actually thinking about this, and we can continue promoting that same message. I think from me, that's all I can say, Hezbollah.
Thank you very much for those insights. And I think that's a good point for us to bring the panel discussion to a close. I would like to thank Mrs. Wamboi Mbarire, the CEO of RITRAC, for joining us. Mr. Samson Waweru, thank you very much for joining us. Mr. Gituku Kirika, who is the CEO of IPSL, thank you for joining this discussion. And also I'd like to thank Mr. Fidelis Muya, who is the Technical Services Director at KBA, as well as Mr. Anthony Nzuki, the CEO of Association for the Persons with Disability Kenya. Thank you very much for joining us. And at this point, I'd like now to open it up. In case you have any questions, any feedback, please raise up your hand and we'll go to mute you. So your questions be answered by either Mr. Fidelis Muya or Gituku Kirika or Dr. Abilolaka. If there's any question, please raise up your hand. We'll be able to give you an opportunity. Okay, if there's no any question, I would like to once again thank you all. I'd like to acknowledge and thank our partners this year, RITRAC, Retail Traders. Yes,
Hesbon, there's a question from Bella.
Okay,
this is Emily. Yeah, in the and she's from the media. So her hand is up.
Hi, good morning. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, please go on, Bella. Sorry, I missed to see your hand.
No problem. No problem. I just wanted to follow up on a couple of comments made by Habil and Eva and the acting DG for the Communications Authority. I just wanted to find out if they're able to quantify in terms of money, by how much the cases of fraud have increased. Masi Wanjau mentioned that 73% of bank customers, actually this was Olaka, I can't remember, 43% of bank customers prefer digital banking. Given the issues or challenges presented by COVID, since everyone moved to the digital space, I wanted to know if you're able to say how much has been lost to fraud on the digital platform compared to 2019 probably. And if you're able to say what measures are being put in place other than consumer education and customer awareness on this. And if you're able to, Masi Wanjau, she talked about the volume of cyber threats. Is she able to say whether there's a financial cost to this? Thank you.
Thank you, Bella. I can see Mrs. Masi Wanjau has left the call. I would like to ask Fidelis, do you want to make a comment on those questions?
Right now, I don't think we have the figures for the frauds yet. I know we report them incidentally, but we have not collated the figures. So at this point in time, I'm not in a position to give you the actual figures in terms of how much has been lost. Suffice it to say that we still need to be proactive in terms of securing ourselves. But at the moment, I don't think I can be able to give those figures, sorry.
Right, thank you, Fidelis.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other question as we wind up?
Just one more, if you'll allow me, to Eva Ngige. She talked about 71% of use in mobile banking increased, and also mentioned an increase in online spending. Is she able to share some figures on how this was? Any figures on what online spending was before and in 2019 and where we're at currently? Thank you.
Eva, please, you can take that.
I have a question. Hello?
Yes, please go on, Solomon.
Yes, I want to appreciate the presentation, and indeed it has been very, very educating, and I want to thank you. But I want to just echo the aspect of accessibility for persons with a disability. I want to commend my chair. I'm a manager for rehabilitation, education rehabilitation at the Kenya Society for the Blind. But I want to say that there are people like people with short stature and also wheelchair users. You know, we want the ATMs to be accessible so that somebody with a wheelchair can just ride and then conduct his business or her business herself. So let us try to see if we can use the standard, the international standards, to at least allow people with short stature, because some of them may not have a stool there to climb to access. So let us also be considerate in that factor so that we are also not leaving anybody behind. Otherwise, this initiative is worthy, its cause, and I want to say that the Kenya Bank Association should even not end there, but should also visit these DPOs that are working with persons with disabilities so that we can enhance the campaign even more to a higher level. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think you are giving, it was generally a comment on the importance of enhancing access. And of course, you know, there's a project being undertaken by the industry, and it's actually based on a study that was conducted. So I think those are some of the issues that will be addressed in that area. As we close, Anthony, please, and be very, very brief.
Thank you, Hesbon. I just wanted to say also, please lower the sanitizers. If by chance you lower the sanitizers, the place where the sanitizers have been placed. Hello? Can you hear me? Hello, Hesbon?
We can hear you.
Yes, I'm just recommending that if the sanitizers can also be lowered where they are put. If somebody is in a wheelchair and they access the keyboard, I mean the ATM, the sanitizers cannot be accessed, most of them. So if that can also be checked, if something is being done along that line. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that feedback. So Bella, I think Eva has dropped from the call. We'll be able to just forward your question.
Hi, husband, I'm actually here. Can you hear me?
Oh, sorry. Oh, yes, please go on.
Not a problem. Yeah, so Bella, I think you asked two questions. One on the stats. What were the stats before the growth that we saw? So I'm happy to share the stats with you directly. So feel free to reach out. Yeah, but I'll also make a comment on the follow-up question you made in terms of where is this spend coming from? Yeah, so if I look at the segments that are driving, e-commerce spend specifically in Kenya, so it's professional services. Think about, platforms like the one we're using, Zoom. It's businesses, buying office solutions. Interestingly, we are also seeing some spend within the education and government segments. A lot happening on the business to business space, considering travelers, small businesses could no longer travel to procure inventory. Yeah, so business to business platforms are also driving e-commerce volumes. Airlines continue to be, quite dominant in that space, though they've dropped a few rankings lower. And lastly, discount stores. So those are the segments that we're seeing consumers and businesses, transact through e-commerce.
Thank you very much, Eva. So I think we'll be able to put Bella in touch, and then you'll be able to share the stats. Yeah, so at this point, in the interest of time, I would like to thank all our partners, RETRAC, Retail Trade Association of Kenya. We have PesaLink, also as our partner, the Communication Authority of Kenya, Visa, the Kenya Society for the Blind, and the Consumer Grassroots Association, as well as MasterCard. I don't know whether Nuru, you are on the call. You can unmute and make a comment as we close. Yeah, sorry, let me unmute Nuru.
Hi, thanks. Really, it's just to thank everybody.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, really, it's just to thank everybody. I've just been following the discussion. Sorry, I had a technical issue, but thank you everybody for the participation.
Thank you very much, Nuru. So we'll continue with the discussion. We'll be sharing the campaign materials online alongside with our partners. And please keep the discussion going on. You can share your feedback under the hashtag Secure Your Banking on Twitter and across all other platforms. And I think someone mentioned at the beginning that actually creating awareness on fraud prevention is a public good. Those who have done economics will know what public goods are. These are things that everyone benefits from, like a good road, clean water, you know. So once we create awareness on security issues and bring, issues of fraud down, it's actually a benefit for everyone. It's not individual, it's not a responsibility of the financial sector only, it's actually a collective role. And that's why we really feel very honored to have partnered with our partners this year, and also extending the scope of the campaign to also include a very important constituency of the banking public, people with disabilities. And I think this sets the stage for further collaboration between the public and private sector in addressing these issues, and also support resilience of the economy in this period. So thank you very much. My name is Hesbon Nyakundi, and we'll keep talking. Thank you very much and have a good day. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to the KBA team and all the panelists.
Asante Wambui.
Thank you as well. Thank you, Nyakundi.
Thank you.